The NBA draft was last night, and it was pretty eventful. We got some new talent into the NBA. It's always a special night because a lot of these young guys, they've been working their whole lives to get to this point, and it's really magical for everyone, not just for the players and their family, but also to just see the players smile and see people who've worked super hard finally achieve their goals. You know what I mean? They say winners like to see other people win. And it's really, for me, it's really amazing. You see these guys that you've watched on overtime, highlights on overtime, or some other highlights you've seen on YouTube, and you see them finally make it to the NBA. For example, Emoni Bates. I've known about Emoni Bates for the past 3 years. And to see him finally get up on the stage and be selected, and his dreams came true. And then there's the super mega touted talents like Victor Wembanyama, who was selected as the #1 overall pick by the San Antonio Spurs. Everyone knew this was going to happen. This guy's been hyped up. Some have said he's a better prospect than LeBron James. I personally wouldn't have went that far. I think the amount of hype that they put on these kids these days is just kind of unfair, and that's what I think happened to not only Victor Wembanyama this year, but also Chet Holmgren last year. You guys forget, last year, Chet Holmgren was touted. Oh my God, he's the next coming of so-and-so. He's this guy. He's Kevin Durant, but better. We see it every draft cycle in which they are really hyped, right? Ever since Chet Holmgren was drafted, we haven't talked about him since. But amongst the guys that got drafted was Gradey Dick. Now, I'm interested in Gradey Dick because I'm a Toronto Raptors fan, and the Toronto Raptors selected him at the 13th pick overall. And my thoughts on him were, yes, perfectly. I made a video the day prior to the NBA draft, and I was talking about the changes that the Toronto Raptors were going to need to make. I talked about how the Toronto Raptors need to overhaul and change their direction and where they're going in the future. Because currently, the way that the Toronto Raptors are right now, they're not backing off the Pascal Siakam-led Toronto Raptors. And my opinion was that we need to do a rebuild. We need to find new talent, whether that's through the NBA draft or whether that's through free agency. Now, Gradey Dick was an amazing pick. I was hoping that we would pick him, right? If you go back to the last video I made, I was hoping that we would pick him because I thought that the Dallas Mavericks were going to get him. I'm surprised that he was there by the time we were on the board. And in that last video I made, I was like, wow, if he's there by the 13th pick, we got to get him. And to me, he's an amazing addition to the Toronto Raptors. He's exactly the sort of thing that the Toronto Raptors need to do in order to move in a different direction, which is rebuilding, right? Now, the Toronto Raptors are rebuilding, they're just not in a full rebuild, right? Evident by how they drafted Scottie Barnes, right? They drafted Scottie Barnes in a lottery pick 2 years ago, and then now Gradey Dick. And then next year, they could get another lottery pick. And that is a result of the trade that the Toronto Raptors made a long time ago for Kawhi Leonard. But back to Gradey Dick. I like this addition to the Toronto Raptors. He's exactly what we needed, right? Number one, the reason I like this pick for the Toronto Raptors is this. He is a great shooter. He was the best shooter in the entire draft. If you go back and you watch his highlights, this kid can shoot the lights out. I mean, shoot the lights out, right? And I think his shooting is only going to get better in the NBA. The way I see it, Gradey Dick's ceiling is Klay Thompson, and his floor is Luke Kennard or JJ Redick. He's going to be a beneficial asset to the Toronto Raptors when the Raptors finally figure it out. When the young guys that they're drafting now finally start to click. And another thing I like about this draft pick, even though he's a rookie, is this. The Toronto Raptors are going to need shooting. Why? Because it's very unlikely that the Toronto Raptors keep Fred Vanvleet. Rumors are that Fred Vanvleet's probably going to sign somewhere else. I've heard the Chicago Bulls been linked to Fred Vanvleet. I've heard the Philadelphia 76ers linked to Fred Vanvleet. And it's unlikely that they keep Fred Vanvleet. Fred Vanvleet was the best shooter that Toronto Raptors had, right? He played a huge role in the 2019 championship. He shot the lights out. And he's been the second best player on the Toronto Raptors after Pascal Siakam ever since Kawhi Leonard and Kyle Lowry left. His talent, right? His particular set of skills, very coveted, very needed. Now, if he's gone, well, it's great that you now have a shooting guard in Gradey Dick that can just shoot the absolute lights out. I mean, off the dribble, catch and shoot, you name it, he's making it, right? And that's what I like. His game resembles Klay Thompson a lot. If you go watch his highlights, he plays a lot like how Klay Thompson plays. Catch and shoot, hot. Off the dribble, one bounce, hot. he is exactly what the Raptors needed. And I also like the fact that he is 6'8". At the shooting guard position, you'll normally find guys to be around 6'4" to 6'6". That is the normal height for a shooting guard, right? Klay Thompson is 6'6". I think James Harden is 6'5". So this kid being at 6'8", he'll be able to rise up against his defenders very easily in comparison to others. I think that's why he's so good at shooting, because his apex for when he releases in comparison to other shooting guards is very high because he's guarded by other shooting guards. So that is an upside to his game that I like. And then I also like the fact that he's long. Again, being 6'6" and long gives you a great advantage at the defensive end of the floor. And that's something the Toronto Raptors could need. If they do decide to keep OG Anunoby, of which I've been saying we should probably move off of him, see if we can get more draft capital to draft guys like this that are going to be very impactful. They do decide to keep him. That would make two really good perimeter defenders for the Toronto Raptors. Now, I'm still in favor of moving off of Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby. The reason for OG Anunoby is we've had him since 2017, and he's very good for his position. He's really good, but it's not impactful, right? Like, it's not impactful to the point where it's giving us like the impact that we need to get to that next level. He would be more impactful on a team that's ready to win now. His skill set is exactly what teams like the Memphis Grizzlies, what teams like the Phoenix Suns, what teams like the Golden State Warriors need. Teams that could use some extra defensive oomph and are able to actually compete with some of the best teams in the Western Conference. We're not in that category. I mean, we're losing to the Chicago Bulls in the play-in tournament. And then Pascal Siakam. Pascal Siakam has come out and he said he will not sign with anyone he's traded to. Well, it's business. He's going to have to, or else he won't have a job, right? If the Toronto Raptors decide that our relationship with Pascal Siakam has run its course and we've reached the apex of what we can get out of him, we're going to trade him. That's just the way the game goes. I mean, we did that with DeMar DeRozan. Some thought DeMar DeRozan was going to be a Toronto Raptors for life. That's just not how this business works, right? And it's the same thing with Pascal Siakam. And a lot of fans I've noticed are in love with Pascal Siakam. They're not able to see the forest from the trees. They're not able to see that he's plateaued. This is the best we're going to get of Pascal Siakam. There is no more growth. He's made an all-NBA team. He's made a all-star team, right? He's not going to win MVP. He's not going to lead a team to a championship. And like OG Anunoby, he's better off competing for a title somewhere else. He could be a really great asset to, again, those teams that I named. The Golden State Warriors would be awesome with Pascal Siakam. And we could get back a lot of assets for him, a lot of draft capital for him. And next year's draft class is going to be very talented. Bronny James is in that class, right? Imagine if the Toronto Raptors drafted Bronny James and then right after LeBron came to the Toronto Raptors, because he said he's going to play for anyone that drafts his son. You know what I mean? I mean, like, at that point, LeBron James won't be the LeBron James we know, but he could still bring a lot of eyes, a lot of attention, and a lot of what the Toronto Raptors need in terms of growth as a brand for us. Little moves like that the Toronto Raptors can make to improve. But this pick, this draft pick, was again another stellar pick by the Toronto Raptors, just like Scottie Barnes. When Scottie Barnes was drafted 2 years ago in 2021, I wasn't a particularly big fan. I wanted Jalen Suggs, but 2 years later, I'm wrong. And I can admit that. We made the right choice drafting Scottie Barnes, and I think we made the right choice drafting Gradey Dick. I think he's a very energetic guy. There's already videos of him in Toronto interacting with the fans and kids. He's got a smile on his face every time he's talking to the media, making jokes about Drake and wanting to follow Drake. Although he seems like a kid, he's still 19. I think he has a lot of tremendous upsides, and I'm excited for what him and Scottie Barnes are going to be able to do together. And I already saw Scottie Barnes FaceTime him and get acclimated with him. Can't wait to see what he does for the Toronto Raptors. But those are just my thoughts on the draft. If you like this kind of content, make sure to hit the subscribe button and leave a like underneath this video. And until next time, kids.